we were with the non-verbal communication. In that, we are speaking about the language of the eye. So, as I told, language of the eye in our classrooms and in our day-to-day conversations, we are going to use our eyes also as to give to convey some messages. Okay, so that is language of the eye. I have taken only two terms, Sanke Dikhana, like that. So through which we can express our happy or whatever the emotions we have. So that is the language of eye. Okay, see, here some pictures. Through this eye, we can see, I told some emotions. We can read out some emotions like fear, contempt, disgust, surprise, your happiness, sadness, anger. We can express through our eyes. And then the next non-verbal communication, the next form of non-verbal communication is body language. So while teaching in the classroom, so being teachers and being students, you people have observed a number of teachers in your due course of academic journey. So I think you have observed some teachers who are going to use their body while teaching. Like some teachers you have observed who are going to stand behind the lectern, what you say, dais, and when the teacher enters the classroom, the teacher stands there itself and the teacher goes on giving lecture without any movements. Or for a moment, ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ ಅವರು ಇವನ್ ಅವರ ಕೈ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಅವರ ಕಣ್ಣೀರ್ ಯಾವುದನ್ನು ಸಹ ಅವ್ರು ಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡದೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ಲೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಹಿಂದೆ ನಿಂತು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು ಲೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಡೋದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿರಬಹುದು. ಹಾಗೆ you could have observed some teachers who makes movement around the classroom or on the dais also. So that is through body language. That means ನಮ್ಮ ದೈಹಿಕ ಭಾಷೆ ಸಹ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. So where this body language conveys the feelings of respect, welcome, goodbye, by shaking hands. Respect, that means, for example, whenever you are going to see an elderly person, what you are going to do? We are going to rise up from our chair if you are sitting, or just if you are standing there. We are going to respect the elder person, or if you are going to see your teacher, we are going to wish by folding your hands. And then if you are going to welcome them, you are going to shake their hands and you say goodbye by shaking your hands like that. So you are going to convey the feelings of respect, welcome, or other emotions through your body language. So by just seeing a person or by a relative or a friend, first what we are going to do, we are going to smile. We are going to give a fine smile. So by just giving a smile, we are going to communicate some message, and we lean forward to show the respect, and we are going to use the hand gestures, handshake, open arms. This nowadays it has become to show our joy, or to show our victory. What we are going to do, we are going to open up our arms. So if you want to show your love or affection to a small kid, what we are going to do, just we are going to slightly, we are going to shake, or we are going to touch the face of the child like that. If you want to point somebody, we are going to point the finger. So using this body language, we can express the emotions or feelings, and we can express our anxiety, sadness, love, hatredness, empathy, comfort, each and everything through our body only. And then this body language also includes the communication, where we can communicate the information through various gestures, postures, and movements of the body parts. First, ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟೆ. You are going to stand behind, being a teacher or being a lecturer. That person is going to stand behind a lecture and goes on giving the lecture continuously without making a small movement. So that is a lecture mode, but where in that case the verbal communication is dominating. But by simply standing and giving a lecture, it doesn't attract, and it becomes a one way of communication where the receivers become passive listeners. So, but instead of that, if you are going to use this various body postures and gestures and movements. For example, some teachers, what they are going to do, they are going to move from one on the dais itself, from board to the lectern, or from board to the students, like that. And then while explaining, teachers, they are going to use their hands, their facial expressions, and they are going to point the students. Okay, if you are explaining the flower, parts of a flower, in biology classes, what's happened, the teacher may bring the flower itself. But in a regular class, being a teacher, if you want to explain the flower, you may use your hands itself to explain the structure of the flower. Like that, you are going to make the different movements of the body parts. Here I have taken a picture of a Bharatanatyam dancer, where this Bharatanatyam dancer body posture, gestures, and movement, it is communicating the message, about our culture. In that, where the body posture, the eyes, the leg movements, and the hand movements, finger movements, all the body posture, all is going to convey message. For example, some teachers, what they are going to do, ಕೆಲವರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಟೇಬಲ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಟೇಬಲ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ನಿಲ್ಲುವಂತದ್ದು. ಓಕೆ, ಕೆಲವರು the way of they are going to stand, ಅವರು ಹೇಗೆ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ, ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತಹ ಭಂಗಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. So even that is going to convey some messages, some expression. So therefore, this body language shows nervousness, feeling shy, fearful, angry, calm, love, and affection. ನೀವು ನಿಂತುಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತಹ ಭಂಗಿ ಇರಬಹುದು, ನೀವು ಓಡಾಡುವಂತದ್ದು ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಇವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಸಹ ಸಂವಹನವನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಬಾಡಿ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಆಂಗಿಕ ಭಾಷೆ, ದೇಹದ ದೈಹಿಕ ಭಾಷೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಅವುಗಳು ಸಹ ಸಂವಹನವನ್ನ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. And then the next form of communication is sound symbols. Sound symbols ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಶಬ್ದ ಸಂಕೇತಗಳು. ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗೆ, you are narrating a story or explaining something to your friends or to your children or somebody. What kind of reaction you are going to expect from them? While let us take example of storytelling. ನೀವ್ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಕತೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಏನ್ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು, ಹೂ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಬೇಕು. ಅದರ್ವೈಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನ್ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ, ಅವರು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಸೊ that kind of sound symbol, like uttering sound, say, that conveys the message of agree, yes. If you are explaining or narrating something, if they say yes, I'm agree with that, and there's no it says disagreement, that means we are going to while explaining no no ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಶಬ್ದದ ಮೂಲಕ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ we say that is an example for sound symbol. In the classroom, what happens if your student is answering a question? If you are in agree with that, you are going to say who. If you are not agree, you say who. And sometimes what we are going to do, we are going to nod our head or neck. No, yes, like that. So that is also an example for sound symbol. And then I think you could have observed, and even we, including me, we have done these actions like whistling, humming a song. Even humming a song, that is also a sound symbols. And that whistling and humming a song also conveys some message. That is also a form of communication, and it is an example for sound symbols. Where when we are going to whistle, when we are happy, when we are in a joyful mood, we are going to like hum, we are going to hum a song. When we are angry, no, that sound we are going to make. That shows our angry. Visual, it shows and then when we are happy, we just hum a song. We are not completely going to sing, just we are going to humming. So they are called as sound symbols. So they are also a form of communication. And then another one is symbolic code language. That means we are going to use some codes to convey our message. Nowadays, what happened through WhatsApp? For good morning, what you are going to, what kind of message you are going to send? Or to say thank you, I'm going to type thank you. Nowadays, even I'm learning to sending this symbol. For good morning or to congratulate somebody else, what we are going to do? We are going to send some bouquet or some hand like namaskara symbol like that. So that is symbolic code language. And apart from that, even for thank you, we type TY, TNKY like that. Or for YOU, we are going to type only U. So that means here the symbolic code language is nothing but through well-prepared various gestures, postures and body movements. That is, it is a prepared one. Even at home and schools nowadays, children, they have their own code language. ಅವ್ರದೇ ಆದಂತ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಸಾಂಕೇತಿಕ ಭಾಷೆಗಳನ್ನ ಕಲ್ತ್ಕೊಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಊಟ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತೀಯಾ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವ್ರದೇ ಆದಂತ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಸಂಕೇತಗಳನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗೋಣ ಅಥವಾ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ? ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಈ ಒಂದು 2 ಫಿಂಗರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಫಿಂಗರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಥಂಬನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ we are going to show this. So through well prepared various gestures and postures and body movements, we are going to use our symbolic code language. Even that is also going to communicate some informations. One example here I have taken deaf and dumb. I think you have observed, ಈಗ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸಿದ್ರೆ ದೂರದರ್ಶನದಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಬುಲೆಟಿನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಮೊದಲು. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಡೆಫ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಡಂಬ್ ಅವರಿಗೇನೆ ಒಂದು ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. ಆ ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಒಬ್ರು ರೀಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು ಆ ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಅವರ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಈ ಫಿಂಗರ್ಸ್ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಗೆಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಒನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿ ಸಿಂಬಾಲಿಕ್ code language. And then we may have we can mix verbal cues and sound symbols with body language. ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಶಾಬ್ದಿಕ ಸಂಜ್ಞೆಗಳನ್ನ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಶಬ್ದ ಸಂಕೇತಗಳೊಂದಿಗೆ ಬಾಡಿ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಅನ್ನ ಸಹ ಕಂಬೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು? ಸಿಂಬಾಲಿಕ್ ಕೋಡ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಒನ್ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ ಮಹಾಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಗದಾ ಯುದ್ಧ ನಡಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಭೀಮ ಮತ್ತು ದುರ್ಯೋಧನ ನಡುವೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಅದೊಂದು ಸಂದರ್ಭ ನೆನಪಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ. ಯಾರು ದುರ್ಯೋಧನ ಸರೋವರದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಮುಳುಗಿ ಕುಳಿತು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬಂದ ನಂತರ ಗದಾ ಯುದ್ಧ ನಡಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಭೀಮನಿಗೆ ದುರ್ಯೋಧನನ್ನ ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೂ ಸೋಲ್ಸಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರಲ್ಲ, ಅವನಿಂದ ಪೆಟ್ಟು ತಿಂತಾ ಇರ್ತಾನೆ. ಆ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಒಂದು ಕೋಡ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದುರ್ಯೋಧನನ ತೊಡೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನ ಪ್ರಾಣ ಇರೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅವನ ತೊಡೆಗೆ ಗದೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೀನು ಏಟನ್ನ ಕೊಡು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವನು ಒಂದು ಸಿಂಬಾಲಿಕ್ ಕೋಡ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. That is also one best example for our symbolic code language. So this symbolic code language we are going to use in our classroom. That is also one example for the communication. And then if we come to see the classroom teaching as communication, ನಮ್ಮ ತರಗತಿಯ ಬೋಧನೆಯನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಪರಿಗಣಿಸೋದಾದ್ರೆ, already I told that from first slides itself, I said that while mentioning the components of the communication, here I have mentioned the components of the communication as sender, receiver, communication material, media, response material, and facilitators. Here, if we apply that to the classroom teaching process, here definitely we can consider the classroom teaching as a communication process. So being a teacher, it is essential to be an effective communicator to make your teaching effective. So here in that, the first person, what I told, the first component, the source of communication. In case of classroom teaching, it is sender. Teacher takes place the source of communication, that is teacher is the sender in our classroom teaching, and he or she is the one who is going to initiate the process of communication. And then communication material. What material the teacher or here sender is the teacher, and the teacher wants to communicate the material or whatever the curriculum or syllabus we want to transfer in different subjects, like if you are teaching maths or science or English or something else, that becomes your communication material, and you want to send that, you want to convey that material to the receiver. So the curriculum or the syllabus, whatever you are having, that you want to send to your students. So here the communication material is your curriculum or syllabus or whatever the subject. Then how you are going to send that material, which is the media channel of communication. Already I had given examples for the verbal communication and non-verbal communication. The media of channel to communicate our curriculum is verbal and non-verbal. ನಾವು ಶಾಬ್ದಿಕವಾಗಿ ಆದ್ರೂ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ ಅಶಾಬ್ದಿಕವಾಗಿ ಆದ್ರೂ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ವಿಷಯ ವಸ್ತು ಏನಿಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು. So therefore here the media or channel of communication is verbal and non-verbal communication, that is your way of teaching. Here you can apply, you can implement or you can follow a different teaching styles or different teaching strategies. And if you are using non-verbal communication, you can have some aid materials like audiovisual materials or multimedia like that. So that is non-verbal. And then in the non-verbal, I already told that, so you can use your facial expression. That means if you want to show your anger or your happiness or your love towards your students, what you are going to show, you are going to express that in your face itself, and through your eyes, that is what I told, language of the eye. In that, you can, if some students are disturbing you in between the classes, you can warn through your eyes itself. And then here sometimes pause, what we are going to give a pause, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದೆರಡು ನಿಮಿಷ ವಿಶ್ರಾಂತಿಯನ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅದು ಸಹ, even that silence, ಮೌನ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ, even that also communicates some message to the students. So while teaching, to observe some students, or if you are if you want to make some students to attend towards your classes, you are going to give a pause. That is also a way of communication. So, or you can combine both verbal and non-verbal communication, and you can use that as a media or channel for transacting the curriculum. And in case of classroom teaching, receiver is our students. ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವೀಕರಿಸೋರಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Where whatever the material you are transacting, that should reach your student. And then what I told, another one important component is response material or feedback. What response you are going to expect from your student? The material which you have transmitted to your student, they are going to decode, and they are going to feedback, or they are going to respond back to the teacher in the encoded form. Whatever the material, for example, while entering the classroom, you are going to have some objectives, some learning objectives, are nowadays we are going to write it in the learning outcomes forms. That is your expectation. After the completion of your class, what you expect? Your students should be able to answer some questions based on whatever the material you have transacted. So in the last, the student has to give some response to the material whatever you had sent to him. That is response material or feedback. Or in the last, the student may give feedback to the teachers. That is response material. And then another important component which I told is facilitators and barriers. If we consider our classroom, what kind of facilitators and barriers we are going to have in our classroom environment? So facilitators, already I told that the facilitators are going to affect favorably and adversely also. If the facilitators, like what I told, the classroom environment should be we expect healthy classroom environment and a good infrastructure facilities. Like you should have a proper seating facilities, proper ventilation, proper light and all that. Then only the students can sit and they can listen to you, whatever you are teaching. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಂಚಸ್ಸೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಏನು ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಅಂತಂದಾಗ, ಮಕ್ಕಳು ನೀವೆಷ್ಟೇ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಸಹ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಅವರು ಗಮನ ಕೊಡೋದಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಆ ಒಂದು ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೇಟರ್, ಆ ಒಂದು ಸೌಕರ್ಯಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರುವಂತ ಕಾರಣ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಆಗೋದಿಕ್ಕೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಆಗೋದಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೇಟರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ, ಉತ್ತಮವಾದಂತಹ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೇಟರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಆ ನಂತರ ಬ್ಯಾರಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಆಗ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ದೆ, ಬ್ಯಾರಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಅಡಚಣೆಗಳು ಯಾವುದು ಅಂತಂದಾಗ, ಐ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಬೋತ್ ದ ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾರಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾರಿಯರ್ಸ್. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಕಮ್ ಟು ದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾರಿಯರ್ಸ್, ಇಫ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ is situated in a marketplace, what happens? Just imagine what happens to the classroom teaching, where the students may not be able to listen to what the teacher is telling, or what the teacher is speaking, or what is going on in the classroom. And then other thing, if there is no noise, and then there is no proper infrastructure facilities like classroom. ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಸುಮಾರು ಶಾಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. multiple classes in a single classroom, like ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಥರ್ಡ್ ಮೂರು, ಒಂದು ಎರಡು ಮತ್ತು ಮೂರನೇ ತರಗತಿ ಇವಿಷ್ಟು ಸಹ ಒಂದೇ ತರಗತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೀತಾ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶಗಳು ಸಹ ಇದಾವೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ನೀವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನ ಕಲಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ, ಅದನ್ನ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ದೇ ಆರ್ ದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾರಿಯರ್ಸ್. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಕಮ್ ಟು ದ ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾರಿಯರ್ಸ್, ಮಗುವಿನ ಆಸಕ್ತಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಮಗುವಿನ ಕಲಿಕಾ ಅಗತ್ಯತೆಗಳೇನಿದಾವೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಮಗುವಿನ ಪ್ರೀವಿಯಸ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಗುವಿಗೆ ಅಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ತರಗತಿಗೆ ಅಟೆಂಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಕುಳಿತುಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರಾ, ವೆದರ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಲಿಸ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದ teachers, or whether the child is not well, mentally disturbed, like that. All these are going to affect the classroom teaching. So they all act as the barriers. ಇವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಸಹ ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ತರಗತಿಯ ಬೋಧನೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ಬ್ಯಾರಿಯರ್ಸ್, ಅಡಚಣೆಗಳಾಗಿ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. So by considering all these factors, I told in the starting itself, if you want to consider a process as a communication process, that should include all these components like sender, receiver, communication material, media, feedback, and the facilitators and barriers. If you want to consider our classroom teaching as a communication process, yes, of course, our classroom teaching is definitely a communication process, and the teacher is the sender, student is the receiver, and whatever the curriculum or the subject we are going to teach, that becomes the communication material, and the teacher may use both verbal and non-verbal communication as their way or for communication or mode of communication or channel of communication, and the response or feedback the teacher is going to get from the student becomes the response material. And then the facilitators and barriers, that means the barriers are the related with both internal and external barriers, and external barriers lies with the classroom, where the classroom is situated, like that, and internal barriers lies within the student and also with the teacher and facilitators. That is what kind of facilities we are having in our schools, that is favorably affecting the communication. So because of all these points, we can consider our classroom teaching as a communication process. So if you want to become an effective teacher and you want to make your teaching as effective one, first you should be an effective communicator. Being a teacher, the teacher should imbibe all the qualities of an effective communicator. So here, if you want to make your classroom communication as effective one, here I have mentioned some points what we have to imbibe to become an effective communicator. So here, the source of communication, that is nothing but the sender, that is teacher, where it is related with the strengths and qualities of teacher, where we are going to consider both the strengths, the strong points, positive points, and negative points, where we are going to consider the strengths and qualities of a teacher, where teacher should imbibe the qualities of effective communicator. Then how we can become effective communicator? The first thing I have mentioned, sound physical and mental health. There is a saying, sound mind in a sound body. ಸದೃಢವಾದ ದೇಹದಲ್ಲಿ ಸದೃಢ ಮನಸ್ಸು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. If you are not well, if your physical health is not well, you are not able to stand, then how can you expect that you can transact the material effectively to the ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಹುಷಾರಿಲ್ಲ ಅಥವಾ ತಲೆ ನೋವ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಬಂದಾಗ ನೀವು ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾಗುತ್ತೆ. That is therefore a sound physical health is expected to become effective communicator. And then mental health, a sound mental health. While coming to the class, we may have some arguments, some unpleasant experiences outside the classroom that is going to affect our mental health. If we are going to carry that within to our classroom, we cannot become an effective communicator. That is the one point. And the second, I mentioned proper dress and mannerisms. Proper dress and manner. Even nowadays in the primary schools also, kids are going to observe their teachers through their dress. Why we have some dress code to the teachers and to the students like that. So if you are going to dress properly, like as teachers, that is also going to affect your communication. And the mannerisms, whatever you are going to follow or use, that also makes you an effective communicator. And then the next point is appropriate voice. Appropriate voice. If I'm going to speak in very low voice, what happens? Can you hear me? No. So appropriate voice. If I'm going to shout at a larger voice, what happens? Even that is not appropriate. A balance, appropriate voice. ಒಂದು ತರಗತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಠವನ್ನ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ how you should use your voice and where you have to follow the high pitch and where you have to follow the low pitch, and voice modulation. We say that tone. Your tone should be modulated according to the situations, according to your subjects. For example, if you are teaching language, Kannada ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀರಾ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಪದ್ಯವನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತ ಪದ್ಯ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ, ಓದ್ತೀರಾ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಅದೇ ನಾಟಕದ ಒಂದು ಭಾಗ ಇದ್ರೆ, ಗದ್ಯ ಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಭಾಷಣೆಯನ್ನ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ರಾಜನ ಒಂದು ಸಂಭಾಷಣೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಇರಬೇಕು, ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಹೇಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಒಬ್ಬ ಸೈನಿಕನ ಭಾಷೆ ಹೇಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಅವನ ಒಂದು ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಹೇಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದಟ್ ರೋಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ and according to the situations, you have to use the appropriate voice and you have to modulate your voice, your tone. That is the most expected one. ನನಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಕಿರ್ಚ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅದು ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ತುಂಬಾ ನನ್ಗೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಸಣ್ಣಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರು ಸಹ ಅದು ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಯೂಸ್ ದ ಅಪ್ರೋಪ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ and control and efficiency in the use of language. ನೀವು ಮಾತನಾಡುವಂತ ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಫಿಷಿಯನ್ಸಿ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್, ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಓವರ್ ದಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್. ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಪಟ್ಟೆ ತುಂಬಾ ವರ್ಬ್ಯಾಟಿಸಮ್, ಬೇಡದೇ ಇರೋದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿಸಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಹೇಳುವಂತದ್ದಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನ ಸರಳವಾಗಿ ನೇರವಾಗಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಹೇಳೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಅಂಡ್ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಓವರ್ ಯುವರ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಫಿಷಿಯನ್ಸಿ. ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಎಫಿಷಿಯನ್ಸಿ ಇನ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್. ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಓವರ್ ಯುವರ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್. ಅದರ್ವೈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಸ್, that classroom becomes or where the students may create noise and may become a constraint or a barrier to your teaching. So therefore here you should be efficient in the use of your language and you should be efficient in having a control over your classroom. And then the next point or the next quality what we expect being a teacher is knowledge, skill and efficiency in the use of various media and channels of communication. Various media and channels of communication. I have mentioned verbal and non-verbal communication and mechanical communications like that. So the teacher should be efficient in using the nowadays we expect The teacher should be efficient in using multimedia. Like while teaching, the teacher can take the assistance of the like PPT or computer or some other technological aids. Nowadays we have artificial intelligence. Using that artificial intelligence, we can create our PPT, graphs or lesson plans, each and everything, and we can insert some videos or some pictures or some documentaries like that. Although we have that knowledge, we should be skillful in using that medias and we should be efficient. ಎಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೂ ಸಹ ಅದನ್ನ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡಲ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಎಫಿಷಿಯನ್ಸಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಯುವರ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್. ಹಿಯರ್ ದ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ಇಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಯುವರ್ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್. ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್ effective. That is the one thing. And then mastery over the subject. ನೀವು ಯಾವ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನ ಟೀಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ಆ ವಿಷಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಪ್ರಾವೀಣ್ಯತೆಯನ್ನ ನೀವು ಸಾಧಿಸಬೇಕು. ಮಾಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಓವರ್ ದ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್. ಯು should know a thorough deeper understanding of that subject is essential one. And then efficiency in expression skills. Here, what happens with our teachers, although the teacher has a vast knowledge of all the subjects or whatever the content the teacher wants to convey or transact, the teacher may not be efficient in expressing that content. ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೂ ಸಹ ಅದನ್ನ presentation skill, what we say, the teacher doesn't know how to present it and the organized way of presenting that material. So that makes the teaching like ineffective, where ಆ ಒಂದು ಬೋಧನೆ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲಾ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಇದ್ರೂ ತುಂಬಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರು ಸಹ ಆ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಸ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್, ನಮ್ಮ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗೋದಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೋಡಿ ನಾವು ಕೆಲವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಕೆಲವರು ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಬಹಳ ಬೇಗ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಅಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಅಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಈಸಿಲಿ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್. ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಸ್ ಇಂದಾನೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಅಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಆಲ್ದೋ ದೇ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎನಿ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಆರ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್, because of their expression skills they are going to attract. So therefore here hagan matrike namge content beku anta enilla, adike modle helidene mastery over the subject is essential, and although you are having that mastery, you should be efficient in expressing that content. So if you want to become here with respect to the source of communication, that is with respect to the teacher, I have mentioned the teacher should imbibe all the qualities of effective communicator. And then coming to the communication material. Okay, so being a source of communication, that is teacher, I am efficient in expressing skills, presentation skills, I have a mastery over my subject, and I know how to use my verbal communication and non-verbal communication. But if your communication material, that is whatever the content you want to transact, if it is not attractive, if it is not valuable, then utterly your skills or whatever your qualities, it doesn't comes to help you. So therefore here the communication material is also important. Then how should we it? Where although the material is not attractive, the teacher should be efficient in making that content attractive. ಆ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. The content should be attractive and valuable. It should be new and novel. ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಹಳೆಯದ್ ತೆಕ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥದ್ದಲ್ಲ, ಅಥವಾ ಹಳೆಯದನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಬೇಕು. And the quality and nature of this content are the communication material. ನಾವು ಏನನ್ನ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಇದೀವೋ, that should be according to the needs, interest, previous background, mental horizon, communication level of the students. Communication here ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳ ಒಂದು ಅಗತ್ಯ ಏನಿದೆ, ಅವರ ಆಸಕ್ತಿಗಳು, ಅವರ ಹಿಂದಿನ ಒಂದು ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಮಾನಸಿಕ ಒಂದು ಡೊಮೈನ್, ಒಂದು ಹೊರೈಸನ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ, Vyapti, scope, what is it? And then mainly communication level. If you are teaching a 7th standard student, at that level, if you are going to use the communication skills which is applicable to the higher level, like degree level, how can the students understand the material? ಕೆಲವೊಮ್ಮೆ ಇದೇ ಆಗುವಂತದ್ದು. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ 7ನೇ ತರಗತಿಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಒಂದು ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ಹಂತಕ್ಕೆ ಅನುಗುಣವಾದಂತಹ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಅದನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ಟು 7ನೇ ತರಗತಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಟೀಚ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಯೂಸ್ degree level or master's degree level communication, the students are not able to understand. So therefore, while this communication material, it should, if you want to communicate the material, you have to maintain the quality and nature of the content according to the needs, mental horizon and communication level of the students. While transacting that material, the teacher should keep all these in mind to become an effective communicator. Then coming to the communication media. So communication media, what I told, channels, what kind of media we are going to use to communicate our material to the students. Again, here, the nature and quality of this verbal and non-verbal media and channels plays an important role. So, nature and quality of the verbal and non-verbal means. For example, ಆಗ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ ಪದ್ಯವನ್ನ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀರ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ, ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ವಿಷಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಪದ್ಯವನ್ನ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ವರ್ಬಲ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಪದ್ಯವನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ರಾಗವಾಗಿ ಹಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಹಾಡನ್ನ ಹೇಳುವ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ನಾನ್ ವರ್ಬಲ್ ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಕಂಬೈನ್ ಸಮ್ ನಾನ್ ವರ್ಬಲ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಬರುವಂತದ್ದು, ಇವೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನ ನಾವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ that the quality of using that verbal and non-verbal channels gives or makes the teacher an effective communicator. So for that purpose, what should we have to do? We have to use known and understandable language. Known and understandable, ಅರ್ಥವಾಗುವಂತಹ ಮತ್ತು ಗೊತ್ತಿರುವಂತಹ ಭಾಷೆಯನ್ನ ನಾವು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. And then verbal communication should be supported by non-verbal cues, gestures and movements. Gestures and movements, I already told, just simply book anna itkondu, just simply holding book and reading a poem or a lesson doesn't give any meaning. So instead of that, with that verbal, use some non-verbal cues like gestures or moving from one place to that too. Again, moving means ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಇಡೀ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಓಡಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತದ್ದಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. Then some gestures, if that poem expects eye language of the eye or facial expressions, like if you expect some expressions of some emotions like anger, love, affection, fear, all that all should be combined. And movement, that makes your communication effective. And then use appropriate audio visual aid material. If that material expects some audio visual materials, like you can have the PPT or some small videos for 1 minute or 2 minutes videos, or some documentaries, some pictures you can use. So use appropriate audio visual. What happens if I'm going to go on give a lecture without any PPTs or without any audio visual materials? That may make you bored. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಬೋರ್ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ಬೋದು. You may not be interested to listen. So therefore, use appropriate audio visual aid material. And then learn essential skills to use communication media. ಈಗ nowadays the computer has become each and everyone's essential one. Everyone's need. Without this system or without mobile phone, can we think of 1 hour without our smartphone? No, not possible. So with just having smartphone is not useful. You should know how to use that smartphone. That is nothing but learn the essential skills to use communication media, whether you are using a mobile phone or using a system, or if you are using any other technological aid, you should know how to use that. You should learn. Nowadays, what is happening, uh, even while making appointments, the at the time of appointment or viva, they ask the question, do you have the knowledge of computers? Like that. Yes, that is the need of today's day. So therefore, learn the essential skills to use all that media, and variety, novelty, and creativity is expected in use of different means and media of communication. PPT nu ಈಗ ಏನಾಗೋಯ್ತು ಹಳೇದಾಗೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು. Instead, find out some variety, some novelty and creativity in using this media of communication, like multimedia. You can have audio, video, visuals, a mixture of all these things, multimedia. So that creates interest among the students, among the listeners. So then our communication becomes effective. Then hagidre the teacher here, the sender is good, even communication material is good, and communication media also we have. Then what about the receiver? So here receiver, that means students, you have a good material, you are a good communicator, you are using multimedia and all, but still your students are not able to understand what you are what are the information was sent by you. Why? What is the reason? Because there are some factors which lies within the receiver. ಆ ರಿಸೀವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಸಹ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಅಂಶಗಳಿದ್ದಾವೆ. That becomes an important factor in effective communication. So here, the first point, the proper and sufficient previous knowledge and general background, where the receiver should have a sufficient previous knowledge and general background. ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಪೂರ್ವ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. For that purpose only, I think you know about while a student enters from 6th standard to 7th standard, and for example, where we are going to have a bridge course in starting of the academic year. Academic year na ಪ್ರಾರಂಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು bridge course ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ, where they are going to teach the previous classes like 6th standard some revision, like that is bridge course, where they are going to provide, or they are going to just make the students to recall their previous class knowledge. So therefore here the receiver should have proper and sufficient previous knowledge and general background. If the child doesn't know anything about what you are saying, like addition or for example, I am telling directly, if you go for the higher level of calculation, the student will not be able to understand. So therefore you should have a knowledge of students' previous knowledge and their general background, whether the student is at the average level or at the above average level, like the student is a gifted, or if the student is lying below the average level. You should have all that. According to that, where you can modify your communication material, your way of communication, like non-verbal and verbal, and your media or channels of communication. And then from the receiver end, it is essential we expect proficiency and abilities in terms of communication skills. That means the listening, writing, and speaking. Receiver, here the students should be a good listeners, and they should know writing, and they should speak well. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಇಷ್ಟು ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದ ನಂತರ ನೀವು ಕೇಳಿದಂತಹ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಮಗು ಉತ್ತರಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಪೀಕಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಸ್ ಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ನೋ ಹೌ ಟು ರೈಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಲಿಸ್ನಿಂಗ್. ನೀವೇನ್ ಹೇಳಿದೀರ ಅದನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅವನಿಗೆ ರೀಡಿಂಗ್, ರೈಟಿಂಗ್, ಸ್ಪೀಕಿಂಗ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ವಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ a proficiency and abilities in terms of communication skills like listening, writing, and speaking from the receiver and also. And even the receiver should have the abilities to use various modes, media, and means of communication. Not only from the sender side, even the receiver. If the receiver wants to send the feedback, the receiver should know what kind of media and means of communication should I use to send my feedback. That is essential. And then quite alert and attentive and provide the feedback. The student should be alert and attentive and they should provide the feedback. Without giving or without having any feedback, how can we understand that is the student is able to understand the material? ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಫೀಡ್ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ. ಓಕೆ, and they have to show proper zeal, enthusiasm, and curiosity. And instead of passive listeners, they should become inquirer and active partner. And it is the duty of the teacher where they should encourage the students to become inquirer and active partner in the process of communication. That makes our communication effective. Then coming to the environmental conditions and situations. Here, these environmental conditions and situations are nothing but what I told, facilitators and barriers. So here, I have mentioning the some facilitators like appropriately spacious, proper ventilation and seating capacity. In a classroom of 20, 30 the dimension, or if the classroom has a capacity of 10 to 15 students, if you are going to make the 30 students to sit there, how can the students sit, and how, to what extent we can expect a good feedback from the students? That we have to think. So therefore, appropriate spacious classroom, proper ventilation, seating capacity is essential for the effective communication. And it should be free from outside noise, already I told, disturbances, and internal arrangements. That is, the internal arrangements means within the school where timetable and disciplinary conditions should be controlled. Timetable, a well balanced timetable is also a facilitator for an effective communication. And disciplinary conditions, where we should have a control over the school and the classroom with some disciplinary actions. So therefore, here that makes a communication effective. And have healthy and useful interaction, avoid unhealthy criticism. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಕೇಳಿದಂತ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಅಂಡ್ ಇಫ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅಟೆಂಟಿವ್ ಇನ್ ಮೈ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್, ಅಂಡ್ ಇಫ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಟುವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ದ ಲೆಸನ್ಸ್, ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಕ್ರಿಟಿಸೈಸ್ ದೆಮ್ and we are going to give negative remarks, discouraging remarks. So because of that reason, what happens, the students, they will not show interest in interacting with the teachers, and they will not participate in the process of communication. So therefore, it is good to have healthy and useful interaction and healthy criticism. So maintain, being a teacher, you have to maintain healthy interaction and follow the principles of group behavior, group dynamics, and socio-psychological climate. So socio-psychological climate means where the teacher should be in a condition to understand the nature of the psychology of the students, their interests, their needs, their intelligence level, and all that. Group behavior means you have to consider classroom as a miniature society, and you should know how to create relationship among the students, between the teacher and students, like that. Being a teacher, you should have the knowledge of group dynamics. If we know that one, we follow the principles of this group behavior and group dynamics, definitely we can make our classroom teaching effective. And then make efforts to attract and motivate the students for required classroom communication. Motivate the students, attract the students to make your classroom communication more effective. For that, you have to encourage your student. So here I want to quote one example. A newly appointed teacher, a high school teacher. So they have, that teacher has converted his one classroom, that will ಒಂದು classroom ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಲೈಕ್ ಬೇಡದೇ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಅನ್ನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ದಟ್ ಟೀಚರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟೆಡ್ ದಟ್ ಹೋಲ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಇಂಟು ಎ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್. ಸೊ ಬೈ ಪೇಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್ ದ ವಾಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಫ್ಲೋರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ವಿತ್ ಈ ಕನ್ನಡದ ವರ್ಣಮಾಲೆಗಳನ್ನ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮ್ಯಾಥಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ನ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಆಪರೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಲೈಕ್ ಅಡಿಷನ್, ಸಬ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್, ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್, ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಇದು ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಇದೆ, ಲೈಕ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್, ಇವೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನ to show all that teacher has painted that whole classroom and they have converted and made it attractive for the students. So that kind of motivation and encouragement for students is essential to have a effective communication. So that makes your communicate and avoid noise, and then these barriers what I told, like try to understand the psychology of, that is this one, social psychology of the students, their group behavior and all that. So that makes your classroom effective, and you will definitely, you are going to become an effective communicator. So while considering your teaching as a communication, being a teacher, we have to follow and we have to imbibe all these qualities. And then coming to the last point, what is the importance of communication skills for students, not only for to the students, for all, to the teachers and to the students. So if you want to become a good communicator, maintain the correct body language. Correct body language means where while speaking with your students or with your higher authority or with your peer or with your others, maintain eye to eye contact, match the tone while communicating others, and use proper hand gestures. Wherever essential, you have to match the tone. ದೊಡ್ಡವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡುವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಜೋರ್ ವಾಯ್ಸು, ಮಗು ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಜೋರ್ ಟೋನ್ ಇದ್ರೆ that is not suitable. Match your tone according to the situations, and then maintain the proper gestures and eye to eye contact. And then use correct medium, that is ensure the right medium of conversation. ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾತನಾಡಬೇಕು, you should, whether I am speaking with my 10th standard students, the conversation what I am using it is correct, the medium is correct or not. Just evaluate and use the correct medium, and then be confident. Never become angry, aggressive, even in worst situation. For example, if any one of your students ask questions, if you don't know the answer, don't be angry, okay, and aggressive. Be confident, and it doesn't mean not to listen to others or to cut their views. If your student asks a question, if you know answer, otherwise try to find out some alternatives, or try to solve his doubts or questions, or you may say tomorrow I will see, like that. But instead of that, you are not supposed, like, don't curb the child, and don't it doesn't mean that you are not listening to the child, or you are not supposed to cut the views of the child. And then respect opinions of others. So respect whatever the students they are going to opine, what the opinions the students are going to give. Always respect others and give regards to what they are saying or what they want to say. And if you respect and if you acknowledge them, that becomes an important aspect of your communication. And the next point, listen with attention. Listen, whatever, what the person next to us or speaking with us is saying, listen with attention. When you disagree with someone else's point of view, it is necessary to sympathize with their point of view. ಓ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋಂಥದ್ದು ನನಗೇನು ಉಪಯೋಗಕ್ಕೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ನನಗೆ ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳದೆ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಕುಳಿತುಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. You have to give, you have to think from the other points of view. What we say, empathy. So instead simply getting your message across them, andre naan helidde sari, don't speak as per your view. Just go beyond that and listen to others and respect them also. And speak less and effective. ಹಾಗಂತ ತುಂಬಾ ನಾನೇ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಫುಲ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥದ್ದಲ್ಲ, ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೇನೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾತಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದಲ್ಲ. ಸ್ಪೀಕ್ ಲೆಸ್, ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ಕನ್ವೆ ಯುವರ್ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಇನ್ ಫ್ಯೂ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್. ಆಗ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ತುಂಬಾ ಅತಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ವರ್ಬ್ಯಾಟಿಸಮ್, ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಬೇಡದೆ ಇರೋದೆಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿಸಿ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದಲ್ಲ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ. ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ಕನ್ವೆ ಯುವರ್ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಇನ್ ಫ್ಯೂ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಆಸ್ ಪಾಸಿಬಲ್. Get straight away to the point without speaking excessively. ಕೆಲವರು, I think you could have observed, if they want to start speak something, they start with an big introduction. Then they will come to their point and they are going to finish that within 2-3 sentences. So instead of doing like that, go straight away to the point and speak less. The next point, quality of being friendly to others. Good communications builds strong friendships and it also helps in making confident enough so that makes interested, that too especially to the students going to school every day. That builds confidence. Improvement in the presence of mind. It improves our presence of mind whenever we express our views, listen to others, or talking about, understands their point of view, and also while communicating what we are talking about. So if you are going to listen to others, we are thinking about from the point of view of others and what they are saying. So definitely we are going to have a presence of mind. That means we can improve our mind. If we are going to continue the practice of not listening to others, not having a face-to-face contact or not having a eye-to-eye contact, simply sitting and thinking something else, and your body is here and your mind is somewhere, it is not good, and it doesn't where your presence of mind will be somewhere else, what we say absent mind. So but if you are going to listen to somebody else, and then if you are going to think from the point of view of others and you are able to understand, definitely is going to improve your presence of mind. So therefore, being an teacher, if you want to become an effective communicator, so we have to practice all these skills to become effective teacher, and we can make our classroom teaching effective. So with this,